Ohio State's path to the national championship has forged a team ready for the moment.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And during today's show, we'll dive into our weekly stock watch as well as discuss the MVP of the Buckeyes offensive line. But before we get to any of that, Ohio State's path to the national championship has forged a team ready for the moment. And as we inch closer and closer and closer to the national championship, I have been looking at the Buckeyes' path to the Natty. It is not just looking at the path during the 2024 season, but the path of all these Buckeyes of 4 or 5 years of playing college football that have led them to this moment. They are all ready for the moment. They have all been grinding, and their path, the individual paths to get here, have made them more ready for this moment than ever before. Ohio State has been full of players that are grinders, full of players that have massive goals, full of guys that are going off to the pros, but they have one thing left to do in a Buckeye uniform. That's win a national championship. Yes, there's been a lot of setbacks along the way. There's been a lot of growing pains. There have been some losses that have been unfortunate. There have been some wins that have been massive. All of those are right here in front of us right now. When we look at what Ohio State has done over the past 4 or 5 years with these players, all of that has led to this. All of that has not only led to this, but it's prepared these players for this massive stage. And I think Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles and all the other coaches, they are ready to put the players in the right position as well. Chip Kelly's experience both in college and in the NFL, same for Ryan Day. Jim Knowles making numerous stops along the way. Brian Hartline, his time in the NFL. James Laurinaitis being the youngster, the new guy on the coaching staff. All of those guys, their paths have led them for this moment too. It's kind of fun to think about how each player has had a different path to get them here, but it's also prepared them to play their best ball in the final game of the 2024 college football season. Think about it. Lathan Ransom, 5-year guy, had an unfortunate injury in the Rose Bowl a few years ago. All of a sudden, he comes back to play on that field that was a place where he broke his leg when he played on that field for the very first time. Next thing you know, Lathan Ransom is a monster game. Caleb Downs did great things down there at Alabama a year ago, but unfortunately, he was on the wrong end of a national semifinal game against Michigan. He was on the losing end of that game, and he transfers to Ohio State. He had that sour taste in his mouth. He had that moment in his mouth. He realized, hey, there are things that we didn't do right in that game that led to that moment. That's helped prepare him for this. Will Howard, 5 years of college football, he was going to lose his job if he stayed at Kansas State. He came to Ohio State. He wanted to raise his draft stock. He wanted to win a national championship. During the season, he has accomplished one goal. He has raised his draft stock. Now on Monday night, he has the opportunity to accomplish his other goal, which is to win the national championship. Denzel Burke, Tui Malowell, Jack Sawyer, all these, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, all of them have individual paths. All of them have moments that are different, but they led them for this. And if you're Ryan Day in Ohio State, you want guys that have been through a little bit of a gauntlet. You want guys that have had a lot of highs and some lows. You want some guys that during those lows, they learned lessons, and during those highs, they celebrated. Because all of those things are great. We have had low moments in our lives. We have had moments in our lives where things don't go right. We learn from them. We also have high moments where we celebrate them, which is right. You want to celebrate the high moments in our lives. But for these players, think about it. If you look at Notre Dame's side, yeah, Riley Little transferred, but has he gone through the same type of grind that Will Howard has? No. Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, yes, they're very talented, just like Jeremiah Love, but Judkins and Henderson, to get to this point, their path has been a little bit different. Jeremiah Smith's a newcomer, but even being a newcomer, everything this year has led Jeremiah Smith to have a monster game in the Natty. Think about it. Just a week ago, Texas did some amazing things that really didn't really think any team was going to be able to do. They held Jeremiah Smith to one catch for 3 yards. I don't think it's going to put him in a state where he is not going to prepare like he has prepared all season, where he's not ready to put his best foot forward, where he's not ready to play the final game in this season like it is his last game. I think Jeremiah Smith is absolutely going to have a monster game. I can say that about everybody, though. I can literally say that about Henderson and Judkins, and I can say that about Ibuka and Cardinal Tate and G. Scott Jr. and Will Kazmarek, because a monster game for different players, a monster game for Henderson, it's not going to look the same way for Judkins. A monster game for Will Kazmarek, it looks different than it does for Mecca Ibuka. And so, yes, sometimes a monster game shows up in the stat sheet, but sometimes a monster game does not. And for these guys, yeah, they want their stats. They want the accolades. I'm sure they will be recognized for things that they've done. But ultimately, the only goal right now is winning that national championship. Think about Emeka Ibuka. I made this comment to someone, and I believe it's been true. He has never been the number one receiver at Ohio State when he in any given season. But he's breaking career records for receptions and for receiving yards. Why? Because he's that dude. The seasons that he's had in Columbus, the ups, the downs, the injuries, all of those things have led to him breaking and setting Ohio State records as a receiver, but also made this moment a lot more special. For Ryan Day, think about what this man was going through on November 30th in the aftermath of the 4th straight loss to Michigan. And all of a sudden, Ryan Day is having to hear from people, having to, if he reads articles, having to read it. If you listen to podcasts, having to listen to stuff. Ryan Day was in a state that wasn't fun at all. You don't want to lose 4 straight times to that team, but it happened. You can't dodge reality. But in that moment, that allowed Ryan Day to look inward. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? That allowed the team to have a meeting where people got things off their chest. People hold each other for accountable. Players to players, players to coach. Everybody was holding everyone there accountable. And that helped propel, I do believe that Michigan loss helped propel Ohio State to play the way they did against Tennessee, to play the way they did against Oregon, to play the way they did against Texas. And the Texas game wasn't the cleanest. If Ohio State didn't have all the mistakes, they blow out the Longhorns. I have no problem right now making that statement because I truly believe that Ohio State was the better team that day, and they weren't only 14 points better than Texas. On that day, they were. I think if both teams play their best ball, Ohio State beats Texas by way more than 14 points because Texas wasn't able to do certain things with the Buckeyes offense. It all goes back to why these moments are so special. Every Buckeye has a different journey. Every Buckeye has various thoughts. Every Buckeye is grinding right now and is preparing for a massive moment. And while they're preparing, they're reflecting on their journey. Man, it means a whole lot to get here. Some of the Buckeyes were on the team in the 2000 season that went to the national championship, and they're still here now. Think about it. To be able to play in 2 natties in your collegiate career is unreal. It's so rare. It's also very rare to just make it to there once. So for some Buckeye guys on the team, if they only get there once, I'm not sure if they're only going to get there once. I'm not making any bold predictions right now, but if they only get there once, that's way better than most people around the country because getting to the national championship is hard. It's very, very hard. While it's hard, it's very rewarding. Ohio State made it to the national championship, but the path along the way has helped them be very prepared for the massive test they're going to encounter on Monday night against Notre Dame in Atlanta, Georgia. And you know what? The path is also going to help Ohio State pass that test. I'm going to make it now. I'm not going to shy away from the reality. I am picking Ohio State to beat Notre Dame. My score prediction is going to come later. Well, a game prediction for who's going to win the game, that's coming right now. What's also coming right now is just diving into the Buckeyes O-line and diving in who the MVP of Ohio State's offensive line has been this year. I'll tell you who that is next. This episode is brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need all within your budget. I'm currently looking for furniture, and their huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. My favorite part, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. Wayfair's site was so easy to navigate, and I found everything I needed in no time. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. The Buckeyes offensive line has had a very interesting season. It's one of the most interesting years for the offensive line in Columbus in a very, very, very long time. To start the year, you start left guard, who's an All-American, wasn't able to go. You start Austin Saraville. Okay, Jackson is able to go. He's back into the starting lineup. Oh, Simmons goes down. Okay, Zen Mahalski comes in. Oh, Zen Mahalski goes down. Oh, okay. Donovan Jackson goes out to left tackle, position he's never played before. Carson Hinsman comes and plays left guard. Oh, all of a sudden, you lose your starting center the week of the game. Seth McLaughlin goes down. Carson Hinsman goes to center. Austin Saraville goes to left guard. And what do you know? At the end of the regular season, with all those offensive line movements, Buckeyes are 10-2. That's a massive thing to have when it comes to the Buckeyes offensive line having a reshuffle. You're down to your 9th offensive lineman. Then all of a sudden, Luke Montgomery starts his first game of his career in the Cotton Bowl in the national semifinal due to health. Yes, Austin Saraville ended up being a little bit banged up, and his health wasn't where it needed to be, so Luke Montgomery comes in and starts. Might I add, Ohio State during the playoff started rotating at guard. Yes, that's way more stuff than you ever thought Ohio State was going to do with the offensive line, basically playing 6 offensive linemen, a couple of them on a rotation in the playoff, or 3 of them on a rotation in the playoff. It's very weird to talk about. But throughout all the mess, all the injuries, all the reshuffling on the offensive line, Donovan Jackson has been playing a phenomenal year, man. The way that he's been playing football this year, and he came in, and I was not as high on Donovan Jackson as left guard as a lot of the national media was, because I was just thinking, I know he can be good. I don't know if a year ago he was at an All-American level. And going into the year, I kind of was not able to go out and say Donovan Jackson is an All-American. I just couldn't do that yet. And then all of a sudden, Donovan Jackson gets out there, and he is just the embodiment of what a Buckeye is. Think about a guy that could have been the next in line to get the block O. Could have been Donovan Jackson. Now, at the end of the season, of course, we have a little bit more data. We have more context on the offensive line. But before the season, I don't know if I would have given him the block O as far as a guy that would have been second in line. But if there's one guy on offense that deserves a block O, if you're getting one for the offense, one for the defense, it's definitely Donovan Jackson, because his ability to just bump out to a new position that's protecting your quarterback's blind side. He's only given up 1 sack, and that was in the first time he was playing left tackle in that week. When you find out he had to move outside, and he was getting extra work with Tuimoloau and Sawyer, not only because he needed it, but they were going to make sure he got that work, because they knew he couldn't just sit out there and, play catch, or, just kind of sit back and let things happen. No, he had to be proactive. He had to put that work in. And Donovan Jackson, my goodness, it's very rare what he is doing, but it's also fun to watch. I remember when Paris Johnson was here, and Paris Johnson, his freshman year, so he played a lot of right guard, and all of a sudden during the offseason going into his true sophomore year, people were discussing the possible difficulties he was going to have moving to left guard. And he said it's easy. He said it wasn't going to be a difficult thing for him to have to go from right guard hand placement, right guard footwork, right guard brain thinking about and dissecting the play, to doing it on the left side. That's hard, man. It's very, very hard. He made it look very, very easy. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it for you. That is very, very hard. LeBron James, back when him and JJ Redick had their podcast, he talked about how there are guys in the NBA that if you drop one play and let's say it's supposed to go be geared toward something on the right, and all of a sudden you have to flip the play. LeBron James said there's guys in the NBA that can't in their brain flip the play. That at one point was supposed to be a right-sided play to start everything off. And all of a sudden, if you flip it, you start everything going left. There's guys in the NBA that can't do that. And when you're playing offensive line, your footwork is key. Your hand placement is huge. Being able to know what you're trying to look at preset, to know if you have to move protection, it's of the utmost importance. And the fact that Ohio State moved Donovan Jackson to left tackle. Now, it's the same side of the offensive line, different responsibilities. And trust me, you're out there on the island way more than he was at left guard. It's hard, man. I'm not going to sit up here and try to sugarcoat it for you. Baby, it's hard. But what do we know about Ohio State? We know that Ohio State and Justin Fry have been putting in work. And while people have been denying Justin Fry's level to develop or even recruit or even saying he can't do either one, Justin Fry has done a phenomenal job of coaching his team up. And it all goes, and it's all shown in the MVP, man. Donovan Jackson gets that award. I know the season's not over yet, but so far he has been the offensive line MVP. Some may say the offensive MVP. Without Donovan Jackson, Ohio State's not in this position. They're not. His ability to move outside, still know the plays, not having to learn the playbook on the fly, be in shape, get that extra work in with Tuimoloau and Sawyer that he needs. His ability to do all of that is huge. It's one of those things that the more I talk about it, the more I realize how rare it is and how special this moment is for Donovan Jackson. The moment has been special, but the game is not over. There's more business to be done. Don't let this sink in and make you kind of back down to some of the things that you want to accomplish. Because Ohio State needs Donovan Jackson to have the game of his life against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has their own issues on via the injury bug. Jeremiah Love. I don't know all the guys starting left tackles out for this game. I don't know all the guys off the top of my head that are hurt, but they have a plethora of injuries, which makes them being in this moment a whole lot more special too. But there's only one guy that I think at Ohio State gets the title of offensive MVP on the O-line. Can't say offensive MVP. MVP of the Buckeyes O-line. It is Donovan Jackson. This is how I said earlier that Will Howard wants to raise his draft stock. That was one of his things he wanted to do when he transferred to Ohio State. Donovan Jackson, I'm sure, wants to raise his draft stock as well. And you're going into the NFL as a guy that can play either guard or tackle, and you have film of both of them, of you doing both at a very, very, very high level. And if you were to go to the Cleveland Browns or the Chicago Bears or the Carolina Panthers or Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Indianapolis Colts, whoever, fill in the blank. If you're to go to one of those teams, you're able to say, hey, I'm not just a guard. I'm also a tackle. So what do you need? You need a guard? I got you. You need a tackle? I got you. I can do both. You know how those things go around. I see it all the time on the social media. Sabrina Ionescu, former Oregon Duck, now playing for the New York Liberty. People say, get you a girl that can do both. And there's times they put a picture of her up and she's wearing a nicer outfit, and other times she's wearing a jersey, and it's thinking, hey, man, can't get you someone that can be versatile. That's Donovan Jackson. He is versatile, being able to go from this way to that way. He's able to do that, which is huge. It's fun to watch him play. And, man, I can't wait. I cannot wait to see what Donovan Jackson does against Notre Dame on Martin Luther King Day in the college football playoff national championship. Y'all, it's that time of week where we get to dive into our stock watch, see whose stock is rising, see what stock is falling. We'll dive into the ups and downs of the Ohio State stock watch heading into the national championship next. This episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. I love this portion. Every single week we get to dive into our stock watch and just discuss the stock that's rising and the stock that's falling. And this is our final stock watch heading into the national championship. And while there's some stock that's falling a little bit, I hope that stock that's falling starts to rise in the Natty and it goes the Buckeyes' way. Stock up on Jack Sawyer. Call that man Captain Jack. Call that man Jack the Quick. Call that man whatever you want, but Jack Sawyer is rising in the stock element of the Ohio State football team because this man's a dog. PBU on 3rd and goal, a strip 6 on 4th and goal, doing the things that are somewhat things you dream about, and he's now doing them right in front of your very own eyes. As many Ohio State fans have trust in the Buckeyes goal line defense, you also realize that, man, Texas is good. They got some good plays, got some good athletes, and Sark knows how to attack when you least expect it. And Jack Sawyer, all season long, even in the Michigan loss, homie had that pick where he dropped back into coverage. And oh my goodness, it was like Gus Johnson was going to lose his voice. And I don't mind it. I don't mind him doing that because if I was him, I might lose my voice too because that play was insane. One of the most rare plays you'll ever see in football. And all of a sudden, he just topped it about a month and a half later in the national semifinal against Texas in the stadium inside the Lone Star State. Jack Sawyer, man, your stock is rising. Congratulations. You're playing your best ball as a Buckeye at the right time. You got one more game left. You got one more game left. Don't just let this all sink in now. You got one more game left. Let's make that very well known by your play that you understand the assignment. Stock up on Jim Knowles. Now, Jim Knowles, so far this season, has led the Buckeyes defense to do some amazing things. And outside of Oregon, no team has scored over 17 points at all. I'm going to double check that here really quickly. I do believe that has been something that is true for Ohio State so far this year, that no team has scored over 17 points at Ohio State. Think about how rare that is. Ohio State's played some really good teams, had some really good offenses that they've played. Oregon's team was good. Michigan had some success that day. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, the only team that scored over 17 points against Ohio State was Oregon. They did it twice, once in a loss, once in a win. Early in the year, had a goose egg against Western Michigan. You goose egged Purdue. Only gave up 7 points to Northwestern. Only gave up 13 points on the road to Penn State. Only gave up 17 points to Nebraska. You only gave up 15 to Indiana, 13 to Michigan, 17 to Tennessee, 14 to Texas. Think about how rare that is. And I didn't go through all of the point totals or the points that Ohio State gave up. But just the fact that Ohio State has only allowed one team to score over 17 points, that team did it twice. The second time wasn't a blowout loss. That's rare. And then the fact that Jim Knowles on the 3rd and goal call that was a PBU by Jack Sawyer, Ohio State pulled out a coverage call that they had not used all season. Use it in the right moment. Jack Sawyer did Jack Sawyer things too. Can't get it wrong. But I still don't think that pass would have been completed if Jack Sawyer did not break the pass up. Once again, Jim Knowles' stock is rising for knowing when to push the right buttons. Jack Sawyer's stock is rising just because he be making these plays, man. He be making these plays, and they're fun to watch. Stock up on Luke Montgomery getting his first start in the CFP National Semifinal, the first one that he's ever played in. He started the Cotton Bowl, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. That's your first start, and you play like that, young man. And you're not someone that's needing to be pulled quickly because you're making mistake after mistake after mistake. But no, you're showing everybody you can stay in to play great ball over and over and over again. Luke Montgomery, I was a little skeptical. I ain't gonna lie to you. I did it on this show quite a bit, and I discussed how I don't know if they're making the right decision to go out here and rotate that guard. And okay, Sierveld and Chabola, you're going to start the game. Luke Montgomery, you're going to play. Oh, Sierveld, you can go from left to right and right to left. Tegra, you're only playing right. And if you're getting pulled, you're going to the sideline, and Sierveld's going to your spot. Think about that very thing. All of a sudden, the Buckeyes are doing something that's so unconventional, it's never even thought about. And the Buckeyes are flourishing, man. Ohio State, stock rising for Jack Sawyer, Jim Knowles, and Luke Montgomery. But unfortunately, the stock is falling for them boys, shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over again. I'm going to echo a statement I made earlier in this show because it fits so well right now. If Ohio State doesn't shoot themselves in the foot the way they did against Texas, that game's a blowout. Because there's nothing Texas could have done to slow down Ohio State's offense outside of Ohio State just getting in their own way. Ryan Day, I went back and watched the recap video that Ohio State made, and Ryan Day realized that he was not lying. Hey, offense, we're stopping ourselves. That's so true. Up 21-14 at the end of the game when Texas is driving. I know for some Buckeye fans, it's like, oh, we feel like we're down. No, wait. We're up, but we feel like we're down because Texas is driving and having a phenomenal drive. The margin would have been a whole lot larger if y'all just didn't shoot yourself in the foot, which is why that's on the stock downside of today's show, because it's true. Those penalties hurt drastically. Trevian here to punch somebody. We got a hold. We got a false start. You got a hold. You got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. So many things that are so out of character that even as I'm talking about them right now, I'm sitting here trying to figure out if this is reality, that Ohio State's really making these decisions. And yes, they are. Also, stock down at Ohio State, only scoring 28 points. Because I think you're like me. Many of you will believe that Ohio State should have scored more than 28 against Texas. As great as that defense is, Ohio State had the goods, man, to run that thing up. They could have put up 50 on Texas if they wanted to. Because I truly don't think Ohio State would have been slowed down enough by Texas to not get close to that 50 burger. But we'll never know exactly what's going to happen. Stock down on them penalties. Stock down only scoring 28 points. I think more points should have been scored. Stock up on Jack Sawyer. Stock up on Jim Knowles. Stock up on Luke Montgomery. And all, let's just clap it up for the MVP so far of the Buckeyes offensive line, and Donovan Jackson. He played great ball. He's put Ohio State in the right position to be successful. He has not given up a sack since that sack he gave up to Abdul Carter in the middle of the season. Let that sink in for you. A guy playing left tackle for the very first time over a 6-week span? 7-week span? I forget exactly how many games it's been since the time that he got moved out there to now. But all I realize is it feels like he has not missed a beat, and he might be playing better at tackle this year than he was playing at guard earlier this year. I'm not sure, but I do know this. Ohio State's in a good position to beat Notre Dame on Monday night. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send any email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Buckeye fans, we're up out here on a hump day. We'll see you next time.